If your child has OCD, school can be one of the most triggering places, from intrusive thoughts to compulsions that take over your child's day. And here's what most schools get wrong: they miss the signs of OCD, or they see the behaviors and misunderstand it as ADHD, anxiety, even defiance. So today I'm going to walk you through what OCD looks like in school and what parents and educators can do about it. Let's talk about how OCD shows up in school and really gets misunderstood. Some of these behaviors also show up at home. One of the things that I would see when I would observe kids, and I would sit in the back of the classroom and try to figure out what was going on. Usually, a school would ask me, or a parent would want me to figure out why this kid was going to the bathroom so much or needed so much reassurance. And that's one of the first signs that we see in children and teens, is that they may ask you a lot for reassurance. Did I get this right? Is it going to rain today? They can ask a lot of different kinds of questions. And sometimes, they can seem logical, and we reassure, right? And I think the telltale sign is that it's occurring a lot. Your responses or reassurance doesn't always help them, and that they need more reassurance from you that seems logical. The next thing we see is perfectionism. In this world where we expect even young children, but especially our teenagers, to just be amazing, a 4.0, straight A student, it's a lot of pressure on kids. Because kids are working so hard, we may not see those signs of perfectionism. And those same observations I would do, I would see frequent erasures. I would see kids who had their work done, but maybe were afraid to turn it in. So you want to really look for those kinds of signs, that they maybe get upset over small mistakes or are incredibly negative about themselves with you as a teacher. You'll see this at home too, but sometimes kids are more put together. They're holding it together at school because school is so important. Are they rewriting things? They're erasing. I mentioned the bathroom. They're going to the bathroom all the time. They're tapping. There's some level of ritual you're probably not connecting, right? And that's where, teachers are in front of the classes and they're looking. You can always get one of your colleagues to help you observe or talk to the parent about it and start putting the pieces together. We also have task avoidance. So, because of that perfectionism, because of those obsessions and compulsions, kids may avoid tasks altogether, and that's anxious avoidance. More than that, with obsessive and compulsive behavior, they're just so afraid that they're doing something wrong, right? Because OCD is all about avoiding that bad thing that doesn't make any sense from happening. This week, I was talking to a teenager who had OCD, and they were like, "It makes no sense. It doesn't even make sense to me." And then they were feeling so terrible about it. And I tried to explain, that's just OCD. That's what everyone experiences with it. And there's a way to get out of it. And she was very relieved by that. She's a very motivated young woman. I always love to get people who say, enough of this, whatever it is. We can certainly see emotional dysregulation. And this is really where it gets muddy in the classroom and even at home, because you see this reactivity, this defiance, this refusal, this upset, whatever it looks like, spacing out, right? Because remember, dysregulation can show up as those under or overstimulated behaviors. When a kid is reactive or shutting down, we want to dig further. And this should be considered, especially if you're seeing some of the other behaviors. Again, that mislabeling of defiance or laziness without a clear clue, and we never should use those words. We want to try to put the pieces together. And the great part about schools is there's amazing teams of people. As a former school psychologist, I was just telling my team how I was part of 25 years ago, just the most amazing team in an inner city school where it had the most transient population in the district. And boy, that team was amazing. Everybody really cared and wanted to do everything they could for that kid and those families, and I was really grateful to be part of that team because I don't know how to be anything but, do a level 10. When your child or a child with OCD or anxiety is avoiding work, asking repetitive questions, or having outbursts, it's not defiance or attention seeking. Their brain is stuck in a loop. Be very careful to not get into the loop with them because when you answer questions, when you provide relief, what happens is you're actually feeding the barking dog, you're feeding that OCD. What are tools that can help with regulating the nervous system, calming some of those worries and fears? Visual schedules are incredibly reassuring, but not in a negative way for people with OCD. Because if they come to you and say, "What's next?" you can say, "Did you check the schedule?" You don't have to get into it with them, but it helps to provide psychological relief because they're always thinking in advance about their worries. I love having, reset corners or calm down areas in the classroom. If a student has OCD or anxiety or you see it bubbling, you can say, "Did you take a moment to reset yourself?" You don't have to say, "Take a breath." You don't have to do any of those things. I love brain breaks, sensory movement, any of those kinds of things for all age kids in the classroom. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time sitting for a very long period of time, and those type of short movements bring relief not just to the kids, but to me as well. I know that teachers have a lot on their plate, but they're trying to deal with kids that are sitting just an incredible amount of time. Forget about it just in school. They're then going home and being on their devices as we're moving to, really a society of people that are not moving. So that will help regulate the nervous system easily, quickly, and effectively. And you want to really offer, if you can, in class tools like fidgets, calming scripts for yourself, coping language. You want to use supportive, non accommodating language. So when that kid comes up to you who always asks you, "Is this right? Is this right? Is this right?" And you look over the paper for the 100th time that you have all year, and you know that they need you to say you did it right. Now, there's a difference here between the kid that benefits and needs corrections versus the kid that's always got it right. Okay. If the kid's really got it right 95% of the time, you want to really assure them by saying, not accommodate, by saying, "How do you think you did on this?" And they'll say, "Oh, I don't know." And say, "Well, you've been getting it right all year. So what do you think you should do? How do you think you should check this? Because I don't really think you need me to tell you did a good job. How do you think you did?" And really try to get them to use their own comforting skills and not let that reassurance cycle happen because it's just going to feed that OCD. And you can say, "I know this feels hard. What's one step you can take right now?" Right? Because they're going to get flooded with anxiety. When it comes to parents and working with schools, you really want to collaborate early. Teachers can be so proactive. And what winds up happening is parents will say things like, "Well, I didn't want to tell them too much." They already know something's going on. So making sure that you're sharing the right amount of information, maybe asking for a 504 plan if your child's OCD is at an extreme level and really requires direct instruction, then you would ask for an IEP meeting to look at potentially getting your child special education services. And that's something the school can help with you. You want to be careful about those accommodations like extra time, because if you have a perfectionist, extra time is the worst thing you can do. Maybe it's better to have reduced assignments so that they're not stuck in this loop and they get the work done, right? You want to make sure that they're having accommodations like that safe space, knowing where to go. When I had somebody who had to frequently go to the bathroom, that's just a really common thing that I found with kids of all ages is that they would go to the bathroom, usually to perform a ritual, is that I would give them a pass and they could use it without question 2 times. So then it wasn't that they were going 4 or 5 times or asking 4 or 5 times within a class, right? That's a really common thing, making sure that they have those clear as all kids are getting now, rubrics, whatever it is that are the outcomes you expect, so that when that student is asking for reassurance, you can direct them back to the rubric and say, I know this feels hard, but you've got this. You had it yesterday, you're going to have it today. And don't reassure them, right? And you really want to teach your kid to self advocate. Doesn't matter if they have OCD, dyslexia, ADD, whatever it is. You want your kid to be aware of what their issues are instead of afraid of it. They got all kinds of things running around in their head. You want to make sure they understand what they need to alleviate their distress in a healthy way, right? We don't want to be caught in a reactivity accommodation loop. And just know that as teachers and staff, OCD is just not always obvious. It's something that occurs internally. We all think it's hand washing or, counting tiles, or for some people it is. But for most, it's just a mental component and not behavioral. Know that reassurance feeds OCD, of course, and that punishing or taking away or even giving in to those worries by giving kids extra time and reassurance is not the right thing. OCD, as well as all these other clinical conditions, kids can be accused of being quote unquote manipulative. When your brain is hijacked in a stress loop, they're only thinking about relieving the distress. That's not manipulation, that's survival. The brain is forming a habit, right? That's why we need to support their regulation so that their frontal lobes can kick in. They can be more regulated to see what the issues are. We are helping them get control of the OCD. Everybody can get control of their OCD. Some kids, some individuals don't want to because they're so afraid of the bad thing happening. But with this support team in place, educating kids, and of course, getting therapy, we can really help kids talk back to their OCD and get control. With the right strategies, with the right support, these kids can kick this OCD to the curb and thrive. I hope you got a new perspective about what OCD is, how it shows up in the classroom, just how sneaky OCD is. If you're a parent and you're ready to move beyond trial and error and discover the best solution for your child with OCD, anxiety, or any other clinical issue, you can go to drroseann.com/help and take our solution matcher. And that's going to guide you to the right solution to where you're at. I hope this was inspiring. And please know that I absolutely believe that OCD can end. And I've seen it with thousands of kids. You just need the right support team. You need to not accommodate it, and you need a darn good therapist. And of course, got to regulate that nervous system.